So, hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 192, of course, of Level Up, 60 minutes of live Q&A, where your questions really do drive the show. Now, an exciting day today. If you're watching on YouTube, then, of course, you can find out much more about what we do at APMG in our YouTube channel. So do please give this video a like and subscribe to find out much more about the organisation who's behind Level Up and the world of work that we occupy on a day-to-day basis. Doesn't cost you anything, and it helps others to find the content as well as a little reminder for yourself. Adriana is over in the social chat today, so do please let her know your name and, of course, the city from where you're joining. She's going to post a link in the chat to vote up the questions that you would most like answered, and, of course, for you to be able to add your own. If your question is selected, your name's going to appear in the credits at the end of the show. So do get those questions in early and stay with us to see all of that happening. Service management, of course, has come a very long way since the earliest days of IT departments running fail and fix help desks. Do you remember those days? You're probably too young. With separated processes, and then they kind of moved on to become a little bit more integrated, and then lifecycle management kind of appeared as a concept, and ultimately, more value-based approach. But with leading service management practice being adopted outside of IT, it presents a very rich career opportunity for many. But how do you get started, and what are the career opportunities that are available to you? Helping us figure this out today is an amazing panel. So let's jump in and meet them all. Mike Battistella is the president of Solutions³ LLC, an award-winning IT service management and cybersecurity services business. He works across many markets, but has real depth of experience across federal and commercial, I think it's fair to say. And he's also responsible for government solutions over at the DVMS Institute. So welcome back to the panel, Mike. Great to have you on the team.
Nick, thank you for having me. Based on the questions that we're already seeing coming in, I think we're going to have a great time of discussion and exchange of ideas, and looking forward to working with this panel.
Yeah, it's certainly true. I'm just seeing, the live audience gathering online for us, as they do at this point. They're all jumping in, so it's really great to welcome them as well. Welcome back to the panel. Mike Sarbojit joins us, of course, Sarbojit Bose. He's the owner of Cyberservices, a regional cybersecurity organisation based over in Singapore. Working across the Southeast Asia region, Sarbojit has an extensive background in service management and works across many industries with his clients. Welcome back to Level Up, Sarbojit. Great to see you again.
Well, thank you very much, Nick, and the APMG team for having me here. And I'm honored to be a part of this panel and share my thoughts about service management, and especially the wonderful questions that I see which are coming up. I'm excited that we'll have a very good time, and thank you for all the participants who are joining us to ask the question and to listen.
Thank you so much. Stephan Brendel rejoins us today. He is, of course, the regional lead here at APMG for Europe and Latin America. And service management is a core theme that's run throughout his career. And he regularly contributes to professional membership bodies, including the ITSM themselves, the Best Practice User Group, and, of course, the Business Relationship Management Institute as well. So welcome back to the panel, Stephan. Great to see you today.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks for the introduction. And I'm really looking forward to this topic with my peer panelists here on the Level Up show. I think time will be too short.
Indeed, yeah. Nirmalan joins us. He's the CEO and principal consultant at KenVisa, and he splits his time between doing commercial work and also helping build future capability, working with universities, business schools, industry associations, and so on, developing people's competency and confidence as he goes. With a deep background in IT, he is, of course, a regular keynote speaker as well. Welcome back to the panel, Nirmalan. It's lovely to see you again, my friend.
Thanks, Nick. Nice to be back again with the esteemed panelists. Looking forward to answer the questions.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much indeed. Mart Rovers rejoins today. Mart is a regular contributor and, of course, the president over at INTERPROM, where he helps his clients build service management excellence beyond the boundaries of IT and right across their enterprise organizations. Welcome back to Level Up, Mart. Lovely to see you.
Nick, thanks so much for having me again, and thank you, APMG. If we won't be able to answer the questions that are already come in or the questions that will be coming in with this excellent panel, then I don't know, who else to get on the panel. So it's going to be exciting to put our minds in the right frame as far as how to break through in service management. I found this quote from Peter Drucker, who once said, "Quality in the service is not what you put into it; it's what the client or customer gets out of it."
Fantastic. That's really good. Actually, I'm going to make a note of Drucker said many really good things. I love that idea of, quality actually being in the eyes of the consumer, not in the eyes of the provider. So fantastic. Thank you very much indeed, Mark. Welcome back to the panel. Now, no Level Up episode would be complete without a question master, and today's is Charlotte Miller, who's joining us from the Thames Valley here in the UK. Welcome back to Level Up, Charlotte.
Thanks, Nick. It's great to be here. I'm looking forward to asking all of our viewers questions on how to break into service management today. Don't be shy. Join in. Ask your question via slido.com, event 565592.
Okay, fabulous. Thank you very much indeed, everybody. Well, I can see that the questions are stacking up, as did the audience, actually. The audience is growing really quickly. And Ella has joined in the social chat as well in response to the audience growing in size. So thank you, Ella, for jumping in and doing that as well. So let's get on with it. Let's take our first question to the panel. Charlotte, please.
Thanks, Nick. We have a live question from Rajesh. What is the future of ITSM? What are the changes that can be expected?
All right. So it's always a common theme, this, isn't it? Thinking about the future of service management. Where is it going? What's its direction of travel and so on? So Sarbojit, why don't you start us off and then we'll hear from Stephan.
Well, this is a very interesting question, Rajesh, and thank you for this. Now, when you say ITSM, now this ITSM is one specific framework, but I guess you are asking about the IT service management framework in general. And with that, my answer will be yes, it will change. Now, we have seen changes coming in where IT service management frameworks, they were very rigid, process-oriented, and now they have been able to open up. They are now more into providing value. And we have seen that DevOps is also bringing it as, operations which is very versatile, which is agile, and operations which is, proactively changing with the needs of the hour. So we are then moving into another age as we see AI coming in. So the help desk or the interaction that we would see, of course, will be now taken over by AI. We have already seen some of the chat, robots which are there. And, not the chat GPT one, but of course, we can have a chat GPT as a part of our service management where we can ask any question and get service. I don't need to know what kind of question it is. Hey, can you tell me how my connection to my laptop be improved? And you can get suggestions and they can then be implemented, and then service will be in a different level altogether. So that is what we expect to happen, and I'm eager to hear from rest of my panel mates here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think you're right to signpost that extension of machine learning beyond, looking backwards, but also the large language models and doing predictive analytics and these kinds of things. So thank you very much indeed. Let's hear next, please, from Stephan, and then we'll go to Nirmalan.
Yeah. Thanks, Nick. Well, if you want to know about the future of ITSM, which nobody really probably can predict, you have to look at the history. And there's one pattern in IT service management history. It's always a bit behind in the timeline. So first, and that's not too long ago, there was IT was just taking care of themselves. They then recognized, oh, there is a customer. And then there was like referring to the quote that Mart has given. Then suddenly you put that more in the front line. Where's the quality demand coming from and all that? All things that have happened in other industries a decade ago. So IT service management has one flavor. It's always a little bit behind. So you can predict, say maybe they will realize, and not just one big framework, like Sarbojit said, there are others now, there are other initiatives, because it's also close to what customers really want. Now, as a consultant, you would always tell them what they need to do. As a membership association manager, you would rather listen to what they actually want, even if there isn't a solution. So I think future of ITSM, just look at what other industries have done, and I think then we are in machine learning, we are in artificial intelligence, and probably much more into different frameworks. No, there's no one size fits all.
Thank you so much. I think it's good. It's good to understand where you've come from, to know the direction of travel. That's the way in which you can kind of say, okay, we're heading in this particular direction. Thank you, Stephan. Nirmalan, your thoughts, please, and then we'll go to Mart.
Completely agree with what the panelists have mentioned before. But what I feel here, we will not be able to predict the future. Technologies can change and things can completely take a turnaround. But from the current point of view, if you look at ITIL 4, we have adopted DevOps, we have adopted Agile, Lean. We may go for SRE, which is something which is popping up very fast. Then again, ITSM becoming very broad. We may introduce concepts of zero trust and intelligence-based security mechanisms, which can play a bigger role. Low-code, no-code, digital adaptation, platform-related concepts can walk in. Beyond all this, definitely AI going to come in, and AISM is going to play a bigger role. Intelligence-based service knowledge management systems can play a bigger role. In addition to this, definitely there is going to be a big impact coming based on the customer experience. There will be a lot of stress on customer experience based on the current regulatory frameworks which are coming up. That can have a huge impact. And also, there is a universal service management body of knowledge which has come up. And, we may move towards enterprise service management framework. So from the current context, this is what I see.
Thank you very much indeed. I think that you're right to, kind of say that AI is already there, and so therefore it's an immediate thing that we can reference, and see that there is going to be more of it. And that link to knowledge management, I think, is critical. Great service delivery requires everybody on the team, to fully understand and comprehend, to empathize and fully understand and comprehend. And sometimes trying to serve that knowledge to everybody at the moment of need has in the past been really difficult. It's easier now with faster communications and so on, but the systems themselves still rely on people being able to understand the order in which the knowledge has been stored away. So it's very true to kind of point that out as an important element. Mart, your thoughts, please, and then we'll go to Mike.
What I'm predicting, and what do I know, right? But what I'm expecting is that there will be a further specialization in services for many organizations. In other words, the service industry is here to stay, it won't go away. More and more organizations are aware of the fact that they cannot be the expert in everything. So they look for third parties to help them out with services or service components. So the management of all these different service components or services altogether, ITSM calls it the Federation of Services, I think is becoming more and more critical going forward. Again, considering the high pace of change, which comes with further specializations that it's hard to keep up with yourself. So you look for the help of others to provide you with those services. So the management of all that becomes more complex, and the federation of that management of services, I think, is the future of ITSM. And when you're good at that, you definitely will stand out.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Appreciate that. Mike, final thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I'll keep this one kind of short because everyone hit AI pretty hard. But we really are seeing the impact with AI. It's totally changing first level support. I think we're going to see a dramatic change in how self-service is handled because now the end customer can just ask the question. Before it was decision trees and searching FAQs and very, very complicated to get an answer. But I think that's going to change drastically. But I think a key area that we're going to see is a real significant merger of cybersecurity and ITSM. It's going to be, we design our services, we deploy our services, we manage and monitor our services. It's going to be, we need to design those services with security in mind. We need to deploy our services with security in mind. And even looking at the NIST 800-128, just as an example, is totally focused on security-focused configuration management. And that's a major connection of cybersecurity with IT service management as a cornerstone for configuration management. So I see a lot more of that going on.
Yeah, and I also think that sometimes it's like in the past, people used to look up how to do things, maybe in a book, and then they went online and they Googled how to do it, and now they watch somebody showing them how to do it on YouTube or on, TikTok, these kinds of things. So I guess the challenge for service delivery professionals is that the user may well have already tried out 2 or 3 steps that an AI model may have suggested. How good those suggestions were may have actually altered the current state for the customer. So from that point of view, if you're looking to reconfigure something and you follow, a chat GPT generated, I'm not just picking on that, but I'm just using that as the kind of almost the common name for a large language model, AI model. Then, how do you unravel that? How do you go backwards to get to the position of strength from which you can then diagnose the problem and move forward? So the client may be, helping themselves, or they may be making it worse. It's a little difficult to know sometimes, isn't it? Okay, very good. Yeah. Thank you very much indeed. Social is really, really busy. So let's jump over there and see who we've got online today. We've got Georgiana joining us. She's watching from Clevedon here in the UK. So welcome to Level Up today, Georgiana. Great to have you with us. Gary Gates is joining us. I think that's in Greece. Zakynthos. I'm hoping that I'm pronouncing that correctly for you, Gary. So welcome to Level Up this afternoon. It'd be great to have some questions from you, my friend, over in the chat for us this afternoon. And Assumpta rejoined us, a regular viewer from Nigeria. Thank you so much, Assumpta. I know you. So we appreciate you being online today. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Looking forward to getting those questions. Charlotte, on that note, I think we should move on and we'll take our next question, please, for the panel.
Thanks, Nick. We've got a live question from Mohammed. He's watching on LinkedIn. Mohammed asks, what is service management and which fields are covered under this management?
All right, so that's a good scope type question, isn't it? Thank you, Mohammed, for submitting that to us today. Mike, why don't you start us off this time on this question?
Yeah, service management, it's kind of the big umbrella that covers a lot of different things. It started out with IT service management. It's the service desk and what kind of capability and functionality is the service desk providing. From an IT operations management standpoint, you started to look at your element managers, network devices, systems, databases, applications, all these element managers that are looking for availability, event, and performance management. And so we started to look at things as a service. So how are the different components connected? That would be configuration items in the ITIL world. And how is the overall service being provided? So when you look at IT service management, you've got process, and you've got a number of different areas in process: incident, problem, change, config. It goes all over the place. And it's what is the service that we're providing? So IT service management is really looking at the services that IT is providing the organizations, and where it's really changed and expanded is now what is the business providing to not only their internal customers, but to external organizations. So IT service management is hitting all different areas. So if someone, as we talk about leveling up, I want to become an IT service manager, what does that really mean today? It's something very different than it meant 10 years ago. And it really is incorporating cybersecurity. It really is incorporating business services. It really is incorporating the overall organization. What are we doing as an organization? How are we monitoring and managing the services that we're providing our customers, our client, and our internal customers? So there are so many functional areas that we'll probably hit as we go further into the show, but everything from IT capabilities to business applications and a whole host of other areas that I'm sure we'll talk about.
Thank you very much indeed. Thanks, Mike. I think you're absolutely right. It's a broadening scope as time has gone on. Sarbojit, is that your experience as well? What are your thoughts on, what service management truly is?
Yeah, basically Mark has spoken most of Mohammed's mind that he wanted to know about, I guess. I would say service today, as we see, as creating value, and value is what the customer is assuming or the perception of the customer. So it's service management has changed, and when we talk about it earlier, now we see what comes under. So if it is talking about value, it is about the value that is generated. So it is from end to end. It's not only IT, it's not only the product, not only the service, but everything that goes inside to make it happen for the customer. And we know that management is managing men, effectively. Well, not actually the answer. But if we think it that way, so service management is managing service effectively so that the customer is ever happy.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. You're quite right, both. Thank you. And Mohammed, I do hope that gives you, that kind of feeling. I guess, from my perspective, I also feel, perhaps this is a related question, that what good looks like in service management is evolving almost as fast as the discipline itself. So people's expectations now are very different to what they were, and 20 years ago, it might have been fail and fix was enough. And then you had to start to move towards kind of predict and prevent. And then from there, and so on and so on and so on. So I think people's expectations of what good service management is do evolve. And sometimes they're a little bit of ahead of where we are able to deliver as an organization. And that is a great place to be if you are an innovator and you're able to make a significant difference to the value that your organization delivers. So thank you for the question, Mohammed. Great question for us. And we might come back to it a little bit more later on. In the meantime, the questions are stacking up. Charlotte, let's take our next question for the panel.
Thanks, Nick. Our next question is from Maria Teresa Mills. And Maria asks, with AI development, what would you recommend for project managers to increase their knowledge and mitigate risk of being left behind by these great leaps in technology?
Okay, well, Maria, if I may, I might extend that question even beyond project managers to other managers of different disciplines. How do we keep pace with this rate of change. A few weeks ago, I was reading that people were so excited by the large language models that they were themselves being consumed by it, and everybody was thinking, how are we going to adopt this technology? And then over the last few weeks, people have kind of settled down a little bit more, and it's become, perhaps a little bit more, familiar to them as to how they might work with it. What are our thoughts, panel, on how we might keep ourselves up to date, and particularly if we're in a management discipline, either project management or service management roles? Stephan, your thoughts?
So first of all, there is no myth behind it. I mean, if you're using AI, then it's technology. It's using big data big time. So we're having a lot of statistics, a lot of mathematics in there, and it's a great help. And everybody who tried it probably find a way of gathering information faster or better or more precisely. And then this is where I usually make a full stop. Because if it comes to decision making, I rather have decisions being prepared effectively and efficiently, and then trying to make these decisions myself. Maybe I'm too old, maybe I'm too old-fashioned, but I think it's a great tool, and I would like to see artificial intelligence as a tool and not as anything that replaces things. It can be great stuff for automation, and that's in particular important in service management to automate things. I think Mike touched on that a little bit earlier in help desks and first level support. But what I would recommend, use it. Don't be afraid to use it, managers, and make yourself sure you're still in charge.
Okay, right, yeah. Don't be too afraid. Start exploring it yourself. That's great advice. Keep that curiosity, going, and embrace it, and think about how you might incorporate it into your decision making cycle. Mike, your thoughts? Then we'll go to Mart.
Yeah, I deal with a lot of college students, as you know, with internship programs and workforce development and whatnot, and these folks are coming out, these young men and women are coming out and having a pretty good understanding of AI. They're playing with it, they're using it, they're writing music with it, they're writing some of their papers with it. Maybe they shouldn't be. But, the truth is, as professionals in IT service management, cybersecurity, some of these higher ends, we have to stay on top of it. We absolutely have to stay on top of it. And as a manager, as a program manager, project manager, team lead, we've got to know the lingo because these young resources or young individuals are coming out, spouting a lot about it and using it effectively. And, I know some folks have a fear of AI and some folks, jump in full board. In my opinion, AI is like anything new that comes out. There's, used properly, professionally, and with integrity, it becomes a great tool to use and benefit and improve efficiencies and effectiveness. In the wrong hands, it becomes tragic and a pretty big problem. So as far as risk management goes, understanding what you're using it for, and as has already been mentioned, trust but verify. If I could say it a different way, trust but verify. So you don't want it to replace, you want it to enhance and help your efficiencies, not take everything for gospel.
Absolutely. Thanks. Trust but verify. There's a great phrase for you. Excellent. Thank you so much, Mike. Mart, your thoughts on this? How do we keep our knowledge up and mitigate the risk of, quite frankly, becoming obsolete?
I'll definitely use AI, but like Mike said, trust but verify. I mean, I've already experienced too many examples where, the data that AI is based on is only as good as the data itself. I mean, for example, LinkedIn is creating pages these days based on what AI is doing for them, and then what's being produced. I'm not saying everything is wrong, but certain pieces are definitely incorrect when it's about the information that is produced. based on having the wrong data in essence. Google now allows websites to be excluded from its AI capabilities. So in other words, if you don't want to have your information included, then you may be missing out on some vital information that was produced through AI. In other words, be very mindful, be very careful. Don't rely 100% on what AI is producing for you. So that would be maybe not the best way to mitigate risk, but use it, but then indeed make sure that you also verify what was produced. Is it actually factually true? Because there's enough evidence already that it's not the case.
Thank you very much indeed. It's I wouldn't describe it as a minefield, because I think that it's known, what the risks actually are, and if we keep on top of those risks, then we're managing and mitigating those for our colleagues. One thing to consider is what you put in to the large language model engines is highly influential over what it is that you get back out. So there is a language to learn here in the form of prompts and the syntax to use, if you like, the grammar that the large language model is looking to the human being to be able to provide. And that is true if you're using a generative AI model for imagery, like Midjourney, which is a fabulous resource to be able to explore and use and understand how humans are interfacing to generative AI. Or if you're using text-based ones, rather like the others that we have spoken about previously, and things like Bard and so on, which are coming more and more up the charts for people to be able to have access to and use. Very good. I think what we'll do is we might look for, social team are busy at the moment looking for some of the prompts that they might post into the chat. Let's see who is over in the chat today. Ezekiel joins us from Singapore. So Sarbojit, you have one of your neighbours at least relatively close by, in the form of Ezekiel watching today. So thank you for joining from the same time zone, Ezekiel. And Maria Teresa is joining from West Yorkshire, God's own country in the United Kingdom. Thank you very much indeed, Maria Teresa. And Bina rejoins again from Bradford, a regular viewer, I think. Bina, I've seen you in the chat previously, so thank you for joining us today online. Great to have you as part of the team. Don't forget, you can put in your questions into the chat directly, and the social team will pick them up and bring them to the panel. And also, we're genuinely interested in the conversation. We learn from you as much as we learn from each other, and also the audience from the panel. So please do give us your thoughts on the questions in the chat as we go through the show. Next question, please, then, Charlotte. Let's get fastest finger first on those keyboards, everybody. Let's see what our thoughts are in the social chat and our thoughts from the panel.
Thanks, Nick. We've got a live question from Peter in Boston. I'm rather new to service management. It seems that many have gone before me making a career in service management. What do you recommend to make a breakthrough?
All right. So being new to service management is actually refreshing. Many of us have had quite long careers in it. Why don't you start us off, Sarbojit, and then we'll go to Stephan.
Hi, Peter. Interesting question that you have put here in here, and it says that you seem that many have gone before me and career. Yeah, people have been in the service management career for long. It's not a new thing, but what is happening, as I just mentioned earlier, is that it has moved from just strictly process oriented or some workflow oriented to a more of a customer need or a value generation orientation. So anyone who is able to click on to that value generation proposition, they will have a good breakthrough. It doesn't matter whether you're in IT, whether you are in a product, whether you are in management, whether you're in finance, whether you are in any function area. What matters is if you know what is value to customers, and not only the external customers, your internal stakeholders as well, then you will get that breakthrough, and you will reach your customers faster, better, and cheaper.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much indeed, Sarbojit, for that clear thinking. Stephan, your thoughts on this one? How would you kind of go about this?
Peter, there's one recommendation I would like to give you. Have a look into XLAs. An XLA is the opposite, not the opposite, but it's the extension of an SLA. Usually to gain service satisfaction or service at all, you would have a service level agreement. It's not the first step when you go into service management, but it's one you want to achieve to be a service level manager. But the point here is what we've seen over the years, that service managers have achieved all their goals, everything. Reaction time on calls and first level support and everything, and still customers are not happy. XLAs are trying to overcome that burden and find out about the sentiment. What is it that really makes a customer happy? So it has to do with how you define the service, how you define or find out about what is it that needs to be done also internally, because always two sides. One is the customer-facing side, the other one is what needs to be organized. That's what service management's all about. But as Sarbojit said earlier, to make a customer happy, you have to know what makes them happy. And I think if you look into that, and that's the buzzword, XLAs, have a look into this one.
Yeah, it's such an important evolution, I would say, to the world of service management, okay, to go beyond that. And what was being highlighted on the panel much earlier on was to think about the value being, perceived by the consumer, not by the provider. And that experience level agreement, that's what XLA is standing for rather than service level agreement, should in theory avoid any service professional going back and saying, I know I've not answered you, but I'm still within my SLA. How many times have we ever been frustrated by that, as the end customer, right? Or, oh, thank you very much, Mr. Customer, but we're going to charge you much more for that because that's outside our SLA. These kinds of things. And all that you want is your experience to be better, and it's like, okay, the dashboard, Mr. Supplier, on your end may be green, but I can assure you that's the outside of the watermelon. If you cut deep beyond the skin of it, you're going to come across, bright red, as is the interior of the watermelon. Okay, very good. So, Mike, your kind of thoughts on this concept of the XLA being that, kind of next step, if you like, or for Peter, his thoughts on how could he make a breakthrough?
Well, Nick, I'm just going to comment on what you said or expand a little bit on what you said very simply. What has IT service management always been? And if I'm having a conversation with somebody about ITIL and we're talking, we can talk about all the different areas of ITIL. We can talk about RACI matrices and, we could go on and on. But if we had to boil it down to something very, very simple, what would it be? Rhetorical question. My response, let's do better today than we did yesterday. And if we go in with that mindset, let's just do better today than we did yesterday. We can meet all our SLAs, we can meet our OLAs, we can have everything lined up numerically and have a customer that doesn't want to do business with us because we haven't met the XLA. Let's just do better today than we did yesterday, and we'll have happy customers.
Indeed. Thank you so much indeed. I appreciate that. Thank you, Mike. Let's move on, I think, as time is kind of working against us a little bit. Charlotte, let's pick up the pace. We'll take our next question, please.
Thanks, Nick. The next question is from one of our live viewers, Brian Hesler. Are all of Drucker's principles still relevant today in ITSM? Put my teeth in. Specifically, I'm thinking of MBO.
Okay, all right. Well, Drucker's principles in the world of service management panel, are they all still relevant today? I think the nice thing about principles is that generally they do stand up to the test of time, in the sense that they're not a fad. They might start off as a theory, but if you really think about principles themselves, they generally, are actually quite substantive. Mart, what are your thoughts on Drucker's principles?
A simple yes. We can leave it at that, Brian. I would. Service management is such a broad field of expertise. It touches on so many things. If you take a close look at it, I would certainly say yes. I can talk to any of these principles and talk it into and give it a service management spin. So I wouldn't, Well, first off, like you said, Nick, principles are there and they survive the times, and service management will do the same. In other words, combining the two is definitely not a stretch. So, yes.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed. Sarbojit, your thoughts on, are they still relevant from the first through to the last? I mean, the one that haunts me, I suppose, a little bit is one, what gets measured gets managed. So from that point of view, if you can't measure something, how do you actually manage it? And that features a great deal, doesn't it, in service management, being able to measure what's going on?
Well, absolutely true. And Brian, this is a wonderful question. Now, as we know about, if you cannot measure, you cannot think of anything. Even if we cannot measure time, we won't know when to start and when to end this session, this program, and how long we need to continue, right? So we need to measure everything, and we do that in every step of our life. So what Drucker mentioned as the father, and I would say the grandfather of the management, is true and relevant even today. I can talk about one more thing is where we have been talking about a few times, which is culture, its strategy for breakfast. It seems very funny, but it is true. The organization culture are so important for our organization to understand and taken care of that whatever strategy you do will not work. Now, you talked about MBO, which is management by objective. Of course, anything, even today's date, when we talked about just now about understanding what makes customers happy. Now, that should be our objective, that what we should do is not what we think. That is not the objective. The objective is what the customer thinks. And we are looking into it today more than if our process objectives are fulfilled or not. So management objective is not irrelevant. It still stands firm. Only the way we look at and what we measure has changed in there. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Sarbojit. Thank you, Mart. So let's move on if we can. Great question. Thank you, Brian. We really appreciate that. Oh, Nirmalan, you wanted to add something.
Yeah, I just want to add a few points. One is the moment that you talk about measurement, we need to have a clear definition. When the definitions have issues or when the definitions are vague, measurements will have deviation. And when you have this kind of a situation, achieving your objectives also will have a lot of issues. Now, achieving objectives doesn't happen in its own. Like, you need to have the critical success factors given to them in succeeding in that space.
Absolutely right. Thank you so much indeed. And it was a real clarity, wasn't it, in that thought? If you're vague about what it is that what the measurement actually is, you'll get a greater variation in that measurement happening. So try and improve that precision on the things that really matter, to your organization, and get that done. Excellent. Thank you very much indeed, panel. I think we're going to have to hurry. Let's take our next live question if we can, Charlotte.
You can, Nick. We've got a live question, and I'm going to apologise for the surname pronunciation. AJ Ramakaradon. Can you please tell me what is the specific courses that is being offered by APMG for service management?
All right. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, AJ. Stephan, let's hear from you first, and then we'll go to Mart.
Yeah. First of all, AJ, APMG themselves are not offering courses. We do this through our training organizations, and the other hand up is from Mart, who is one of our accredited training organizations. But what we're offering are schemes. And for service management in particular, it is ITSM, which has initially been developed by the European Commission as a federated service management approach. And we're offering OpenSM, which has been developed by a conglomerate of several organizations, all of them being tired of the full commercial model of ITIL as it is today. So they found there's much more input, much more coming from the market than any kind of paid authors. I said probably talked about the blueprint earlier, and which I don't like in this context. So that's why APMG is offering in particular these two. And there are other flavors who are very related to it, but these are the main ones.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Mart, your thoughts on specific courses available for people who want to get into service management?
Thank you, Nick. And indeed, the courses mentioned are the same that I was going to mention. And indeed, APMG provides the scheme and the certification exams for that. The one I'd like to put in the spotlight is certainly ITSM. So if you're looking for one in particular, I would definitely go for that scheme. It's one that has taken a lot of complexity out of service management, and it's lightweight. In other words, you get fast to where you want to be as an individual, as an organization. So that one I can highly recommend. Plus, if you go to the ITSM.eu website, you can basically download the whole standard and all its components at no charge. They even have a self-assessment, ITSM-6, to get a feeling as far as where you're at this moment with your service management knowledge, your practices. In other words, highly recommend to focus on that one and go the certification route to get your credentials.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, Martin. That's great advice, isn't it? I didn't know that you could do that. It's because it was a European Union funded initiative, so it makes sense that it will be available, free of charge for you to be able to dip into and to learn from. So that's really great. So thank you for that. Charlotte, I think we've got time. And AJ, I hope that has helped give you some thoughts, as to where you might like to head next and look up some of the course outlines and the curricula and so on for you to study for your next chapter in your career. Charlotte, I think we've got time for one more question, if we can fit that one into the panel, please.
Thanks, Nick. We've got a live question. Thanks, AD, for submitting this into Slido. They ask, I do not work in IT, but head a procurement and contract management service. Which training would you recommend for better service delivery, ITIL 4 or other?
All right. Well, I'm going to leave the initial answers here to the consultants on the panel, who are doing this day in, day out. Mart, what are your thoughts for somebody who's in procurement, contract management? Where should they really begin?
I'm going to build on my previous answer. I've had the pleasure of helping organizations benefiting from ITSM, and not only IT organizations, but also organizations in areas such as procurement, HR, financial management. In other words, other parts of organizations that also provide services, deliver services, benefiting from the ITSM standards. And yes, ITSM does mention the word IT, but it's so easy to strip out that word and say, you know what, everyone provides services and can benefit from quality services, and has components of services to manage, and has customer experience to manage, and has service integrations and federations to manage. In other words, it's not a stretch to apply FitSM also in those areas. So I would again go back to FitSM, go to the website, download stuff for free, start doing your self-assessments, and get educated and start applying it.
Thank you very much indeed. Thanks, Mart. Let's go next then to Sarbojit, please, if we can, and then we'll hear from Stephan.
Yeah, thank you, Adi, Natalie, for the question. Now, as we spoke earlier that whatever you work for in whichever function area of an organization, you are adding value to the final outcome of the organization, which is the value generated through the product or the services which is brought to the customer at the end of the day. Right? If that be true, you are doing procurement and contract, which is also a very important part of service management by itself. I have no point in saying that do not think yourself as you are not in service management. You are in service management, because these are very two key important things about procurement and contract by which we can engage with our customers, with our vendors, suppliers, and partners, as we call them more today. And if you go and look into today's, there are a few others like business relationship management and other things that talk about the same thing. So that what the point is, you're on the right track. If you want to get some small foundation course to be done, you can get it done so that you are aware of the jargons used in the other part of the organization in this value chain, right? So please go ahead, orient yourself and start where you are and focus on value. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Stephan and then Nirmalan.
Make this very short. You might think about skipping IDLE 4 or any other of those and go directly into BRM, in particular to the BRM professional, like Sarbojit has mentioned. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. That's really good advice, especially if you're writing the questions and constructing the procurement side of it. It's a really, really good, insightful thought. Thank you very much indeed, Stephan. Nirmalan, your thoughts, and then we'll hear from Mike.
I would say you can start off with ITIL, V3 or V4, whichever it is, because that can give you a good context of what and how the procurement is going to get integrated into the organization and the subsequent requirement of service level achievements. So this can be a good start, but you can still go into business relationship management. You have two forms. You can go for BRMI or you can look at ITIL BRM. Then again, sourcing and governance, which is again offered by APMG. You can look at SIAM, multi-vendor procurementing, multi-vendor management. You can get a good knowledge out of that.
Thank you so much, Nirmalan. Mike, final thoughts on this?
Yeah, with my involvement with the DVMS Institute and the CPD model, create, protect, and deliver digital business value. We've talked a lot about value. I'd be remiss without bringing that up. So let me encourage the audience to join one of the APMG Level Up programs, how to become a NIST cybersecurity professional, especially talking with procurement and contract folks. I just feel strongly they need to know that that's out there and available.
It's a really important part of it, isn't it? Because, how we're defining what we're buying, how we're managing the delivery of those services into enterprise organizations is such a critical role. And what a lovely question to bring all of the golden threads of the fabric of today's show together around service management, wherever you are in your career. If you're just starting out, if you're mid-career, if you're working as an individual contributor or you're leading a team, and you may even be in the C-suite trying to wrestle with where do I go next, some fantastic insight from the panel today. So let's move around to our reflections on today. We're going to have to be super quick, panel. So I'm going to limit you to kind of 1 or 2 sentences each. Stephan, start us off, and then we'll go to Mart.
Thanks, Nick. It was a great show. Like I was afraid of, not enough time to fly to all these questions. But thanks to the panelists, thanks to the audience for joining in.
Thank you very much indeed, Martin and Mike.
To finish up this episode about breaking through in service management, a quote from Theodore Roosevelt, who once said, "Nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care."
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Mike, and then Sarbojit.
Thanks, Nick. As always, I so appreciate being part of this. Enjoy the discussion. Have learned a lot. Encourage the attendees to connect with the panelists on LinkedIn so we can continue to share our thoughts and ideas together. Collaboration is key in the areas that we're all in.
Such an important invitation to make, and Brian, you're online as well, and just showing that bullet point up on screen at the moment. Thank you for your contribution. Thank you for your comment. We're learning from each other throughout, so please do link up with any of us. All of our LinkedIn bios are actually on the APMG International events page for today's event, so just click through to that and find us. Sarbojit, your thoughts on today, and then Nirmalan.
Well, as always, the question which has come from the live participants, and even the question which was noted earlier in Slido, very interesting ones, and some were really challenging, and it helped us to bring the best in ourselves and to hit the spot. And I would also like to follow, the same path as Mark talks about. So Bill Gates said, many times we do that your most unhappy customers are the greatest source of your learning, because they allow us to do better.
Thank you very much indeed. Nirmalan, your thoughts, and then we'll go to Charlotte.
Yeah, I wish there is more time to answer the other questions as well. Pleasure being here. Wish all the participants like you go through these and continue to learn, continue to update, and keep up with the pace of the ITSM. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good inspirational thought for us all to keep up to date. Charlotte, your reflections on today's event, Fast and Furious?
Definitely fast and furious, and lots of questions, and some great varied questions. Just to say thank you to our viewers for submitting all your live questions. We can't run these shows, these live streams, without you, because we are a question and answer community at APMG Level Up. Have a good weekend, everybody.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Couldn't echo that more strongly. To thank our producers online, and on their behalf, panel, thank you very much indeed for your excellent job today in racking your brains to answer real questions in real time. We really do appreciate it. So now then, well done, everybody, as we drift to carry on that metaphor of the Fast and the Furious towards the weekend. Over on the APMG website, you can search for the answers to previously asked questions. There's more than 2,000 of them to pick from, and you can type in some keywords into that and find real answers to your questions as well. And it'll connect you with experts from all over the world. Don't forget, you can listen to the audio versions of every show on your preferred podcast platform. Do just search for APMG International and level up your career, and you'll find us easily enough. Coming up next week, on Monday the 8th, we explore how to deliver double the value in half of the time. A must-join episode for everybody who is involved in projects and programs. There's an opportunity actually mid next week to join a webinar looking at how to tackle high failure rates with design thinking. That's on Wednesday the 11th. And that really does set the scene for the end of the week, which is where we dive into design thinking a little bit further, looking at how innovation is driven by design thinking and what better outcomes do look like from that methodology. Sign up, of course, and we'll send you a personal summary of what's coming up and how you too can join us here on the panel and level up your career with APMG. Thanks very much, everybody. Have a great weekend when it arrives for you. Bye-bye now.